Hey folks, I'm Jax, and today I'm excited to talk to you about what is still probably the most broken OP tank in the game, Guardian Druid. Druids continue to bring a ton of utility, and for a class that is supposed to just be kind of pretty okay at everything, Guardian Druid is again going to be one of the best tanks in terms of Mythic Plus dungeons in 9.15. Between the high mobility, self-sustain, great damage output, combat res, all the utilities, Guardian Druid is the way you want to roll, unless you're really going with like a magic heavy group, and then maybe Vengeance Demon Hunter you could talk yourself into. But for me, Big Bear is absolutely the way. In terms of 9.15, there's not a lot of specific changes that are going to impact Guardian. Swipes no longer target capped, so it does deal damage beyond 5 targets. It's actually just a soft cap at 5. So up to 5 targets will receive full damage, and then beyond that it starts to diminish by some square root calculations that you need an IQ of 200 to figure out. But overall, that's kind of it. There's not a lot of substantial changes from where Druid is. In fact, all the specs for Druid aren't changing that much materially in 9.15. We're going to continue to rely on our Frenzied Regeneration, Survival Instincts, Iron Fur, ridiculous amount of benefits we get from Berserk, and Bear is going to continue to be a bunch of fun. You can see the recommended Mythic Plus Talent build I'm proposing here, and you only have, well, you've got a few choices here in terms of Mythic Plus. Really, right off tier 1, Blood Frenzy is almost the only way to go. Just getting the additional rage generation from Thrash, something that will just be spamming continuously, is hard to beat. Tier 2, you usually have 2 choices. You can go with Wild Charge, which I usually prefer, just giving us increased range and mobility. Alternatively, you can go for Renewal. For me personally, I don't really enjoy that insta heal, particularly if it's going to pull me out of bear form, but it just depends on what your preferred playstyle is. Tier 3, you can go with Balance Affinity, and that gives you the increase in range of all your abilities by 3 yards, which is absolutely fantastic if you're ever having any issues maintaining threat. That's an easy way to clean it up. Or alternatively, you can go with Yursa's gift that comes with Resto Affinity, and that'll heal you for 3% of your maximum health. We don't really hear or see a whole lot of Feral Affinity anymore. Cat Weaving isn't a big thing. You'll see it used the odd time still with raiding, but not in Mythic Plus. Now, in terms of Tier 4, you've got 2 choices. Mighty Bash is fantastic if you like to have a stun. I do personally anytime I'm pushing any kind of Mythic Plus content. But we already have a Disorient in terms of Incapacitating Roar. We've got Entangling Roots that are there. So we've got a few different abilities specifically. Alternatively, you can go with Hibernate. So we've got all kinds of alternatives here in terms of controlling mobs. So if you prefer having the additional stun, Mighty Bash is the way to go. Wild of the Heart is the alternative, and that's also a great way to go. Basically, it buffs your chosen affinity from tier 3. It's basically a vice versa. For me, I'll take any increase in terms of healing that I can get my hands on. It really just kind of depends on what you think your group composition is going to look like. Alright, on to tier 5. You've got 2 choices. Galactic Guardian, which I sometimes like, because having a free Moonfire just usually helps drop dots all over the place and increases our throughput. And there's nothing quite like tank damage to improve our survivability. Alternatively, Incarnation Guardian of Ursoc just jacks up your bear form, and that's usually the way that I prefer to go, to be totally honest with you. Either build can materially work and make a pretty monstrous difference either way. Tier 6, you can go with Earth Warden, which is a really easy passive approach. reducing the damage of the next auto attack you take by 30%. Fantastic, right? Alternatively, survival of the fittest is another good passive approach for the tier 6 line. Basically having bark skin reduced down to 40 seconds is fantastic when you recognize that it lasts for 12 seconds. So you're getting bark skins really frequent. Really helps our overall survivability. And now finally transitioning down to tier 7, Rend and Tear is the only way to go in terms of this specific talent. It's a great choice if you just want passive gains without any kind of changes to gameplay. Alright, so that's the quick and dirty talents that we're recommending. Not a real major change from the 9.1 build. From a Covenant perspective, we're also not going to see a tremendous amount of change here. Night Fae is still the recommended go-to. Overall, all of the different classes that are out there, for me, lining up Druids with Night Fae, I know there's been a few cases made for Venthyr with balance specifically, but overall, like, Night Fae has worked very well until we actually obtained this ability with the 9.15 patch in order to jump between Covenants very easily, and that should allow us to push our content, whether it's our keys or our progression raids, pretty materially, as we're able to jump in between the different Covenants going forward. I almost called them class halls, but that was in Legion. If you're just like aimed at like what's the strongest DPS choice, you can actually look really hard at Necrolord. It probably provides you some better damage throughput for bear mode. You'll really benefit from that Fleshcraft, basically having an additional 40% buff on top of our ridiculously high HP already, and then the damage that comes from Adaptive Swarm. That'll help out materially if you're so inclined to push the min-max button that way. So worth checking out. Now, if you're wondering which legendaries to go with, there's a few here. The one I recommend for Mythic Plus is Ursoc's Fury Remembered. It has a great defensive benefit as well as offensive benefit. And then in like multi-target fights and Mythic Plus, it's absolutely just a great overall legendary. Having basically ensuring that Thrash has a 15% chance to trigger an additional Thrash, and that Thrash grants you an absorb shield of 75%. That on top of our now uncapped Thrash. Way to go. It's gonna make the bear rotation probably even easier than it was before. So absolutely exciting to see those changes that are coming through. Bear's going to continue to be a lot of fun in the next little bit, but I'm really interested to know your thoughts. Drop them down in the comments. Let me know what you like about Bear. Are you going to play it? Are you going to main it in 9.15? Or are you going to branch out into something different? What Covenants are you going to try out, if not all of them? And let me know. Overall, like, we didn't see a lot of changes here to the Covenants. For Druid specifically, but I'm interested in seeing how the community responds. Alright folks, enjoy the new content. We'll see you soon. Later.